If you're having paranormal issues, contact us at mwghosthunters.com. From the files of the Midwest Ghost Hunters.
All right, Midwest Ghost Hunters site investigation, recorder 1.
Oh, Dustin, right there. Something just moved behind you.
Yes, it did.
What the was that?
What happened?
Something touched my ear, man.
What's that?
This is Dark Matter with Midwest Ghost Hunters.
Thanks for downloading another episode of our podcast. By the way, our website, if you want any information about us, is mwghosthunters.com. And if you listened last week to the podcast, we were talking about the Satori Hawes and Cody thing, that controversy. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, we did put the videos up on the website, so you can check them out at mwghosthunters.com. Speaking of the website, one of the things I wanted to bring up, and I don't know if this is tiptoeing into a territory that we don't really, it's outside of our orbit or not. But a couple of weeks ago, there was a joke video. It wasn't a joke video. It was made dead serious. And I put it on the website. I sent it to you guys. It was these guys who got under this big dome, and they were popping balloons. And when you pop balloons under this covered dome, it makes the sound of thunder. And they used that video to supposedly prove that we live under a dome. Remember, I sent it to you guys, and I said, look at these jackasses just now learning about the atmosphere. So when I put that video up on the website, just as a joke, just, kind of being silly, because these guys were literally running around celebrating, high-fiving, because they proved we lived under a dome, which we do. It's the fucking atmosphere. It's not a dome. It's a layer, a cushion of, pressurized air that lies above the Earth's crust. So anyway, I got this response from this person. So do you guys completely dismiss the flat Earth theory? Hang on.
Well, you saw me jumping,
I saw you light up. So anyway, that's why I wasn't sure, because if you look at the definition for paranormal, it just means something above the normal, outside the range of normal. Flat Earth falls into that. And I wanted to bring it up.
Yeah.
Because
I'm not the right person to ask about this,
people,
because I'm famous for kicking a student out of my class once that would not acknowledge the fact that that's nonsense.
Good Lord Almighty. Well, we're going to get into that, but hang on. Most people who, email were like, ha, 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 flat Earth's ridiculous. I mean, 99% of them, a bunch of them, too. I didn't expect anybody to respond to this.
They said that it was ridiculous?
Yeah, they said these guys are being ridiculous.
Good. Thank you, everybody that did that.
So here's what they said. They said, so you guys completely dismiss flat Earth theory? You want me to read my response back? Because I emailed them back.
Yeah, please.
If you were nice, I don't want to hear it.
Well, it's just the truth. They said, so you guys completely dismiss flat Earth theory, and my response, I'm just reading it verbatim, I said, correct. And to be more precise, flat Earth is not a theory. A theory is a system of ideas based on general principles to explain something, where flat Earth is simply an illustration of how ridiculous thoughts of people who know nothing about basic science and physics gain traction with other like-minded people. And then I said, I guess my question is why you're asking a paranormal group about the spherical shape of every planet and star in the known universe. They didn't respond back. But if you look, there is, for whatever reason, a large, I don't know how to define large, but larger than it should be, group of people who actually follow this absurd idea that one of the biggest cover-ups in the history of, humankind is that the planet that we live and function on every single day is a different fucking shape than the one that they claim we know. Now, usually when there's a conspiracy like that, there's a reason behind it. Like, why would the government be hiding UFOs? They have a reason.
I was getting ready to say, every conspiracy, what you need to do is ask why. Like, why would somebody do this?
Yeah.
And if you're talking about, like, the JFK assassination, there's a good why there.
There's a lot of whys.
When you're talking about the government covering up evidence of, like, UFO and advanced technology, there's an answer to why.
Yeah,
but
nobody
why
can answer
would anybody?
Why. Nobody can answer that question.
Well, and also keep in mind that if you're going to come back in with any sort of a conspiracy, if you're going to put any credence to it at all, you've got to ask yourself, is it possible to keep that secret that long? With JFK, at least in theory, you could have had other shooters in different places, and I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but it is at least plausible that you could maybe keep a secret like that. There is no way, with as many nations going into space, there's no way that you could, let's go out on the biggest limb ever and say that were true. You couldn't keep that a secret. There's no way. There's
Why
too many.
would you?
Do you understand? Have you ever read into Flat Earth?
Oh, yes.
Like, do you understand the intricacies of it? Because
Are you talking about the ice wall and all that
The way
nonsense?
they answer, okay, so Jesus, like water, the ocean, right?
Yes.
Like flat Earth's explanation for what, because if it's flat, then how does the water not just fly off into space?
Well,
right?
that's easily answered by the ice wall.
The ice wall.
Yeah.
So they think that we are surrounded by a giant wall
They think
of
Antarctica
ice.
is not a plot of land
Like
at
a
the
continent.
southern
They
pole.
think it's like a frame.
It's
Like a
ring.
picture frame.
Yeah.
It's a ring that encases the entire Earth that holds everything in it.
It's just fascinating to me that
if
these
it's
people...
a ring, wouldn't that be a circle?
Well, they don't claim that it's not a circle. They claim it's like a frisbee.
Yes.
Upside down frisbee. Okay.
Yeah.
And the ridges of the frisbee are the ice wall.
And lots of times with flat Earth theories, there will be a dome involved.
There is a dome involved, and I've learned one of the red flags if you're talking to someone, and I actually know one because I heard this sentence come up. If you're talking to someone and they don't come right out and say they're a flat earther, but you know that they are, one of the things they say is that gravity is an illusion. Now, because what they claim is that this disk that we live on, this flat disk, is hurtling through space, which we are. We're moving through space, but they claim this thing is horizontally moving upward, and that's what gravity is. It's just the force of us moving upward that's holding us down. It's not this, gravity's this. It's the spinning. It's centrifugal force.
You have to spin something to generate artificial gravity, right? So, like, I hate this.
I just don't. I don't understand.
I don't even know where to begin. I
don't
hate
even-
it. I hate it so much.
I knew you'd hate it so much.
I don't even understand. I can't wrap my mind around how that theory ever really even got off the ground. Because let's set science aside. Let's not even mess with science. There's no way you could keep that kind of a thing secret.
Now you're on the right track. Like, that's exactly what they do.
Yep.
But
Step one.
It's not even possible. You couldn't keep a secret like that.
No.
Why would you is the thing. Who cares if it's a square? There have been motherfuckers go up in space and look.
There are people in space looking right now.
But there are
William
videos.
Shatner has been to space.
I know. I wish they could load up all this international, what is it called? The International, here it is right here. The International Flat Earth Society. I wish they could load all them up on one of these Elon Musk rockets or something and send them up and say, see?
Yeah, and then don't even worry about bringing them back.
Just leave them up there.
with the knowledge that they were wrong.
Yeah. The more you read into it, the more absurd it gets.
I kind of love
how
that.
did this seems to have gained a lot of popularity, and I don't know, is it just because of the internet and things like that have...
Oh, I'm sure that's been a big part of connecting them all together.
Yeah, but you're right, because when the internet first became a thing, I heard about this then because I frequented these types of forums where that's the only place the thing that's really frustrating that is it has always been inexplicably tied to paranormal.
Yes.
Like the same people that like our stuff, a lot of them, for whatever freaking reason.
I know.
And I don't care who this pisses off, for the record.
Yeah.
Like, if there's anybody out there listening to me right now and they're like, oh, damn it, they're my favorite group, and I just learned they don't think the earth is flat.
No, we don't.
Well, good riddance then,
We
because
know-
I don't want you as a fan.
We know it isn't. We know it isn't. We all know it isn't. The only people who know it isn't are the people looking at it and said, nah, that's not right. It's just
and again, I think you're going to ask the why. Who gains? Let's say that you want to make the Earth is flat. Who gains from that?
Nobody.
You know what
is
would
it?
be the
What are they
gain?
hiding?
Well, I've heard people say it's just their way of controlling us, to keep us under control.
Well,
by the shape of the planet? That
Yeah,
makes
it
no
doesn't make
sense.
But see, I won't even say that there's things to be gained back. The theory that we didn't actually land on the moon, that was all staged in a Hollywood thing. I will say, if you could go back to that period in time and NASA has gone out on a limb, we're going to land on the moon. I could see a group of people saying, well, no matter what actually happens in that situation, we're going to land on the moon.
Right.
One way or the other. I could see that. Now, I'm not saying we didn't land on the moon, but at least...
Well, there's something to gain from hiding it.
Right, and people that were hesitant to believe that we were landing on the moon back then, I kind of understand why you were hesitant to believe it, because it's incredible.
It was real fast, too.
We went from Wright brothers flying a plane to landing on the freaking moon in a very short period of time.
Right, yes.
So that can be kind of like, how did we even... That's amazing, right?
Yeah.
But to ignore every bit of science in the Earth's history...
Not even science, not even mathematical formulas that show... Not gravity. Gravity itself tells you that the Earth is spherical. But ignoring all that and jumping, it's kind of like when Christopher Columbus thought he landed in India and he landed in the United States, and a bunch of Native Americans approached him. He's like, "Are you Indians?" They're like, "No, we're Native Americans." He's like, "You're Indians." And from then on, they're Indians. It's just they've set their mind on that the Earth is flat, and they've even got a gift shop where you can buy your own. You know how we have globes in libraries and classrooms, where you can buy your own flat Earth. Little thing.
That's the stuff that they teach their kids.
Does it look like a little birthday cake?
I'll show you. Some people will pull their kids from school.
I was having a conversation with some friends of mine the other day, and I said, we've got to return to a period where you have fundamental facts. These are fundamental, basic facts.
Yeah, that's the stuff.
There's the dome they were talking about.
The board
so
game
what
Trouble?
they're saying, though, if that dome that you're presenting here and you're showing this, then the Earth isn't flat. Flat Earthers don't believe it's flat either, because that's not flat.
The surface is flat, is what they think.
The surface, like the part we function on, like here. Like here's their view of Earth from space.
But
it's like a dinner plate.
But if we're operating on what
and
we're
look at
operating
the
on is
icicles
flat,
hanging off the edge. But there's icicles hanging off the fucking edge.
But even if they think that the ground here is flat, I mean, that doesn't. The Earth itself is not, even under their stuff that they're putting out.
Well, and have you ever seen their map? Because people have tried. Airline pilots have said, then explain to me why it takes me 24 hours to fly from here to there. I mean, look at their map, and here's what they say.
Fuck?
Because here they say the moon's over here and the sun's here, and they just kind of do this all the time. They just rotate like this, and that's why there's darkness on half of the Earth and light. Someone has had to sit down and think, how could I make this be? And they've come up with this absurd, but when you ask them, they'll say, oh no, Mars and Venus and the moon and sun, they're round. They're spheres.
Right.
They do?
We're special.
Well, but though, I do. I think that you're seeing this more and more in our own world. Now, as far as people being able to create their own facts. And I think that has stemmed out of these alternative media channels, which, by the way, we are one of in full disclosure.
Well, we don't claim to be news.
No, but at the same time, it's still an alternative because, you go back in time 30 years ago, there would be no TV show ever that would allow you to come on and do what we do every week.
I know someone who's a very smart person that will come in and, that I work with, and they'll be like, did you hear on the news that, and they'll tell the story. I'm like, what? It's like, where did you hear that? They didn't hear it on the news. They heard it on a podcast.
Right.
That's not the news.
Well, but I think that's good that it is allowed for us to come in with this, but it also is allowed for all kinds of incredibly out there theories, and I would put that in that category.
You heard that, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think of everything I've read about Flat Earth, this has to be probably one of the most famous headlines. The Flat Earth conspiracy is spreading around the globe.
That's so good.
I mean, it really is infuriating. I mean, I get people, but why would you even want that? What was that?
What the hell was that? Nope.
I heard something.
So the ghost doesn't buy it either.
Why would you even want that to be true? I mean, they're just wanting it into existence, and I have no idea why.
I think that there's also a movement, too, that wants to just go against the system, question everything. And to be honest with you,
question something
we're a part
worthwhile.
of. Well, I know, but we're a part of that too. That here it is. We're questioning.
Don't you dare say
You take that back.
How could you?
But I'm just saying that's why all of this stuff about questioning stuff, and I don't have a problem, by the way. If you're going to question things and you're going to say, no, you know what? I don't think that happened that way.
I don't have a problem with it either. That's
But
the very
question
basic
thing. But
that's
it
the
doesn't
basic
take a
fundamental.
whole lot of digging on this particular issue.
Asking a question is step one of the scientific method.
Right.
But then you look at the evidence and you say, oh, wait, that's the part they're not doing.
But what they look at the evidence and say, that's fake.
Right. It's always fake because they have it set in their mind that that's the truth. And there's nothing that's going to change their mind.
I just can't believe it has gotten a lot more, and I don't want to say credibility because I don't want to use that word, but it's gotten a lot more belief than I would have thought.
It's got more traction, and probably the online communities probably helped that a lot. But to call flat Earth a theory is completely wrong. It's not a theory.
They don't know what a theory means.
I mean,
it's the whole idea of like a theory becoming a law, like that whole
could
process.
Could you say it's a belief?
I don't know what the hell I would say it is. I call it nonsense.
Yeah, you could call it a belief. Like, look, there are other things that people in religion, many different religions, accept as fact that sound just as outworldish as that does to me.
Yeah, that's true.
But I'm not going to get into that because I'll be chased out of the Ozarks with pitchforks. So
You'll be our Frankenstein. It's okay with people having differing beliefs, but my God, there are videos.
Well,
the thing that gets me and makes me frustrated is that they spread this and they make other people believe this, and then they teach their kids this.
Well, and here's the thing that really pisses me, because they have been presented from Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's presented pictures of those windmills out in the ocean. You can see the curve.
The curve. Go to the beach.
And you know what?
Go to the beach and look at the horizon.
But do you know what the response to that type, when they're presented with that type of evidence, you know what the response is? That's fake.
It's Photoshop.
That's not real.
It comes back to the same argument I had with some friends of mine. You're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts.
Well, everybody has their own.
Yes, everybody has their own, but like I just said, there are people that go to church every Sunday that take things as fact that I think's nonsense.
Well, but
every Sunday they do that. They're doing that today, right now, as we speak.
Yeah, but you can also get down, and part of the problem with what I'm talking about is that you can also make that case in most political situations and everything else now too. I mean, that's kind of the world we live in. And I think it's sad because we need to get back to a basic. Well,
there's a big difference between facts and beliefs to me. Whenever you're presented with something and people have hard numbers you can look at, it's like, okay, well that's a fact. But there's other situations where you just have a strong belief that can't be right.
Exactly.
That's a belief.
That's a belief. Yes. Fact versus opinion. Like it might be some people's opinion that the earth is flat, but that does not make it a fact. It's not.
Nothing could make that a fact.
Everything in physics defies flat earth.
Yeah, but a lot of the stuff that we've had happen too defies physics. I mean, dead things can't talk.
Right. And that's why we collect evidence and we try to figure out what it is.
We're fringe. But we're talking about...
I mean, I've said before a million times, I don't know for sure if the voices we're hearing are dead people. I'm not entirely convinced it is. Because I've had no evidence that actually shows that. Like, it could be a million other things that we don't understand yet.
I've never been able to really wrap my mind around out of all the hills in the world that you could go defend, why in the world are you going to defend that one?
Yeah, and die on it.
Why? I mean, I've always found the JFK assassination incredibly interesting.
Yeah, I have too.
Even with that, at the end of the day, you come back in here and look and say, okay, you know what? It's been 70 some odd years and nothing has come out on that. Is it possible that it was covered up? It's still possible, but even the probability of that is not high.
This whole flat earth thing goes into deeper, weirder conspiracies too. Like you've heard about Project Bluebeam.
Yes.
Now, everything you see up there, everything you see is a projection.
Everything is Project Bluebeam. Everything Project Bluebeam, should I even say it, is blamed for everything.
Okay, I'm not familiar with Bluebeam.
So it's a satellite thing that orbits the Earth.
That's the other red flag, because gravity's an illusion and Project Bluebeam, those are your two markers that you look for.
Yeah, you got to make the story even more ridiculous to make sense of everything. So like they say that everything you see in the sky up above you is projected.
From who?
The government.
Do they really say this satellite orbits the Earth?
No. Sorry, that's just me. That's just my initial reaction. That's what satellites do.
If they said that is so contradictory. That's hilarious.
The government can't efficiently pass a spending bill. Do you believe that the government could be able to do that sort of a projection? And which government, by the way? There's world governments. Who's doing all that?
I do not believe.
Well, there's Project Bluebeam, which I have looked into because I've seen, like on Reddit, I've gone into Reddit and looked at Flat Earth thing, and everybody blames everything on fucking Project Blue. And so I finally had to look it up. I was like, what the hell is that? So Project Bluebeam is one. The other is HAARP.
Oh, yeah, HAARP. I almost forgot about
What
HAARP.
is that?
HAARP. What does that stand for?
I don't even remember, man.
I'm going to look it up here real quick.
Look, I'm not going to tell you that the government doesn't cover up things, because they do. I'm not going to tell you that the government doesn't mislead or do anything like that, because you see a number of that things that they're now coming out with and saying, hey, we did that for all this UFO stuff. So I think that part is true, but to be able to pull off a conspiracy that big, you cannot.
So HAARP is the acronym stands for High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program. It's a series of antennas that the government set up. Whose government? I don't even know. It's in
usually the United States.
They're in this field full of antennas is in Alaska. Its original intent was what? Do you remember?
Probably some Cold War thing.
I don't remember. Probably some.
You're
Cold War.
probably right.
It's a radio science research facility. whatever the hell that is. But there's a bunch of people who claim that this field of antennas that's the weather station. That's how we got our joystick making tornadoes go where we want them. We've got hurricanes. You want a hurricane in Florida? Okay, we're going to put the hurricane in Florida.
Now, this became very popular because George Bush caused that.
Yes. Yeah, people claimed that George Bush drove the tornado, right? Or the hurricane.
Drove it.
Right? Isn't that right?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't remember why, but it's retribution for something. It was absurd.
So do they claim that that's been happening for however long weather's been a thing? We've had the technology to build a joystick?
No.
We just harnessed it.
We harnessed it. Yeah, we harnessed the ability. So now we've taken it over.
No.
We've just told atmospheric science, we got this.
It's such bullshit.
And I'm trying to figure out when HARP was originally installed, but it's who cares? It doesn't even matter.
I'm gonna just go out on a wild limb and say sometime in the 50, 60, 70 range.
Probably, yeah. But you'll see people on on whatever, wherever you go, Facebook, Reddit, they will take pictures of an interesting looking series of contrails or an interesting cloud pattern.
I think all of this stuff has gotten going with the internet and with all this alternative media that's out there. If you go back years ago when you were looking at traditional broadcast media, you had to confirm everything through 3 reputable sources before you could go on the air with it. Now you can just jump on the air with a podcast and say absolutely anything you want to say.
Yeah, and then issue a redaction later if you need it.
It's like I've said before about Joe Rogan. He's got the most popular podcast on the planet. But Joe Rogan's method is, his whole thing is to make money, get listeners and advertisers to make money. Joe Rogan's method is, if 9 out of 10 dentists recommend brushing your teeth, Joe Rogan's like, get me that 10th dentist.
Well, there's something, though, to that because it's more interesting.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's the whole
what
point.
Drives it. That's what drives it. And that's fine as long as you understand what you're listening to, what you're consuming, that this is an alternative view of things, that this has not been confirmed through anything. And again, I think that everybody is entitled to their own opinion on things. But you're not entitled to your own set of facts. And always ask, who is driving this? What did they gain out of this? What is it that I gain? Is it political gain from this? Is it monetary gain from this? And this is true for any of these conspiracies. Number one, who's going to benefit from that? Always look at that.
And I don't know who the hell they're saying would gain from the flat earth. That's where we started on this whole thing anyway. And for whatever, the only reason we brought it up is not to get on a soapbox, but it's because it keeps getting lumped in with our shit.
That's the thing that's really frustrating.
And we do not want that.
Well, but so does Bigfoot too, and we've made it very clear
that's what I was getting ready to say. When we wrap up this flat earth thing, I've got, what the hell was that?
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
God bless. But, I mean, Bigfoot gets lopped into us, too. I mean, it's in the same category.
Yeah, but if anybody goes around saying anything, repeating anything we said and say, hey, did you hear what they said on the news? We're not the news. We're just sharing opinions.
No, don't say that.
Don't say what?
Don't say
that we're the news. Don't do that.
There's
we would be listed as alternative media.
there's people who used to read the Weekly World News. Remember those days?
Yes.
And they'd be like, man, did you see what was in the paper?
Well, see, but I think, though, the advantage that the Weekly World News had was the fact that I think everybody knew that was completely fake. If it was a story in the Weekly World News, I mean, they absolutely made it up.
Man, they didn't even hide it.
No.
And I appreciate it. Do you even know what we're talking about, the Weekly World News?
This thing was like in the 1980s.
It's like in the 80s and 90s, the Weekly World News.
It was a black and white paper that came out.
It was set up there with the National Enquirer and all those other tabloid mags.
Is it like an Onion? The Onion?
No. They never.
So it wasn't satire?
No,
it wasn't satire. But
it was the Weekly World News is who at the time drove 100% of the alien content.
Yes.
Bigfoot,
Pictures of George Bush and the alien shaking hands.
Yes, Bigfoot. Bigfoot married into the royal family. It would be Elvis, and then they really drove the
Elvis. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
they really drove the Elvis wasn't dead.
Oh, those used to be at grocery stores.
Yes.
Right, yes.
Yeah.
It was a black and white.
I see what you're saying now. Yes.
I loved it.
They absolutely, and they actually got on to the point to where somebody even released a song to radio, and radio stations played it called "The Spelling of the Stone."
Yes,
and
it claimed to be Elvis.
It was supposedly as this, I haven't gone, check the spelling on my stone.
That's right, they did. And it was all because the Weekly World News started this whole, it went on for years, Elvis alive.
Elvis was seen everywhere.
Michael Jackson didn't die, he went into hiding.
Yeah.
Well, they were gone. The
Yeah,
paper
they were
was
gone
gone
by
by
then.
the time that Michael
So these
Jackson
other
died.
tabloids kind of just jumped up where they left
Yeah,
off.
they
then.
did, but I mean, they really
look,
took the Elvis thing.
Elvis marries ... just days ago.
Yes,
I mean,
Elvis
they did this
scene.
constantly, and that's the picture of Elvis they always use. They always superimpose. They didn't even hide the fact that that's the thing I appreciated about them. They would sit in a room and literally around a table like this and say, what's the most absurd idea anybody's got?
Yeah.
They did this. There's videos of them doing it. They didn't hide it.
That's hilarious.
They didn't hide it
but
at all.
Also, people believed it.
That's what I was getting ready to say, is people would say, my God, did you see in the paper?
Right.
That's not the paper.
It's a paper.
It's made of paper, yes. I loved the Weekly World News.
Yeah, it just seems like fun.
But this is kind of the whole thing. I read the Weekly World News for entertainment only. And that's what a lot of these websites are, and people don't realize it.
I think that you have to understand that.
Did you hear something?
Yeah, that was really long.
It's the same type of thing as like people would watch like Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. Stephen Colbert is a good example of it.
Yeah.
Because they'd be like,
thought
oh,
it was real for a long time.
He thinks like I do.
And honestly,
and they don't realize that he's making fun of it.
I got caught into this myself because I pulled up something. It appeared in the little row that says documentaries, and it was this Helltown or something. It was this town that's got all this paranormal. And I started watching it, and I'm like, my God, this is insane. And about halfway through, I was like, wait a minute. There's no freaking. I would have seen this video before. I looked it up, and I'm watching a mockumentary. I'm 47 minutes deep into a mockumentary.
I've never heard of a mockumentary. I've never heard of that.
It's pretending to be a documentary. It looks like
It's a
one. It
movie
sounds like one.
that looks exactly like a
It's
documentary.
shot, filmed like a documentary,
Right.
edited like a documentary,
Yeah.
but it's about something that's not.
They did one on Megalodon, too. I got trapped on that one, too.
There's one about mermaids.
Yes.
There's one about mermaids. And it even has like your stereotypical, what's the old guy's name? Nature guy. God, help me, somebody.
Are you talking
Perkins.
about
What?
Merlin Perkins?
Attenborough?
Neither of those people.
Bear Grylls?
Sir Attenborough.
Isn't that what I just-
David
isn't that what I just
Attenborough.
said?
I don't know.
I said Attenborough.
He said Attenborough.
He did.
You said Attenborough. Said, no, not that guy.
I thought you said like Herbalborough or something. I didn't know.
I said Attenborough.
Yeah, it has like a guy that sounds like him, and they're talking about mermaids.
And they have actual, you can't tell these people are acting. Eyewitnesses, just like you would see eyewitnesses on the news.
Yep.
But they lump these things into the documentaries, and you have to read the little description before you watch it to know that it's not a documentary.
See, I think it's fine as long as you know up front what you're dealing with. There's a paranormal guy that I like to follow a lot, and this paranormal guy
Which one?
is not
Like a local guy?
yeah.
Oh, Lord.
This paranormal guy. We all like to follow this guy. You've got to understand up front what you're watching is bad, and it's not real paranormal research. Now the problem is when people sit there and watch that, they're gonna think, yeah, that's the real deal, and it's not.
Yeah, and I was actually because I thought I remembered. Speaking of Weekly World News, look at this. This is actually from the Weekly World News. And I don't know I don't know how long Flat Earth has been around, but these guys may have damn well been the ones who started it. I have no idea.
Now, did they come in and so they actually did hold meetings and say what's the most absurd? I just figured they did.
Oh, no, they do. There's actually videos. They don't even hide it. Yeah, come on and film. We don't care. And it's just guys like us sitting around, coming up with ideas. How about an alien meets Gorbachev? All right, good. That's good.
Yeah, okay.
Can the alien be pregnant? Yeah. Let's make the alien pregnant.
Make it half human. It's a hybrid.
That's what they do. That's what they did. And I loved it because they didn't hide it. They didn't try to make it look like the news. They didn't give a fuck.
That's awesome.
They just printed it and sold it. If you want to read it, get it.
Pretty funny.
And they
Pretty
probably sold a lot of them, too.
Oh, it was so. They still sell Weekly World News T-shirts where you can buy the T-shirts with the different covers of Weekly World News. They're still making money off of it.
That's awesome.
I can't believe they could. And it still has a website, too. I think the website's still active. Instead of printing, they moved to web only, I think. I'm not sure if it's still. I'll look here real quick. It doesn't even,
The thing.
Yeah, it's still here.
The only thing that I don't like about it
Look at
is
their slug line. The world's only reliable news. 11 hints you might descend from aliens. That one's on Santa hires outside protection this year.
My friend used to look at one of
5 tips for selling your soul to the devil. If you've ever wanted a how-to on that, we've got scientists create a time machine that eliminates Mondays. See, they literally. I mean, I love this. They just sit around.
Good.
They just sit around and think how absurd. How close can we get to being completely stupid without going completely over the edge?
I would think that the internet would put those guys out of business completely, because now all of these other people are passing them.
You'll see it pop. There's Bat Boy. Remember him?
Yes.
And look, there's the T-shirts. I think this is awesome. But you have to go into it with the right mindset of entertainment only. And that's what so many websites are that people don't realize. And I don't know. I mean, we started out talking about flat Earth, but now it's branched into, hell, even our stuff, the ghosts. The ghost stuff, 95% of that online is nonsense.
But if you do want to get some merch from the Midwest Ghost Hunters, you can do that on our website.
Yes, at mwghosthunters.com. I'm going to have to give me one of these Weekly World News shirts. These are awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
With Bat Boy. I didn't even realize they were still doing this, but they are, and these are crazier than ever. See, they don't even care. You see, Santa hires outside protection. They don't even care, that all of us know, the whole Santa thing.
What? What's Santa?
But they don't even care. If we're done talking about flat Earth, there's Bigfoot news. Man captures...
Bigfoot going up a hill?
No, best footage ever.
Oh.
After spotting Bigfoot in the wild.
And it's the same video we've been watching since 1979.
See, recently, there's been a couple good Bigfoot videos come up. The one I showed you guys a couple months ago. Oh, I haven't seen this one. Best footage of Bigfoot.
Is he going to come up?
You see anything yet?
No.
So we're in a very shaky, wooded area.
Can you hold your damn camera still?
Is he going to eat the sausage or whatever that is that he always does?
Man, it's very hard to do this when you're having an
What is
epileptic
Bigfoot?
seizure.
Oh, you're talking about the beef jerky. Yeah. Eat the sausage. Okay, so what we're doing here is we're watching evidence. We're watching a video of the best best Bigfoot footage ever received. And depending on what we see here, we'll put it up on the website. I'm going to skip the ad. Okay, we're going to kind of narrate this as we go. Very shaky camera in the woods, like Dustin said. Mm-hmm. What happens when people get in the woods and they see Bigfoot that this starts happening?
Kind of, they go all Blair Witch.
Is that him?
I can't tell.
There it is. There it is.
There it is. Look, there he is. That's a tiny little...
I can't even see it.
I think he's supposed to be sitting down.
Yeah, that's an ape.
Oh, I think I see it now.
Yeah, I see. He's sitting there. He just threw a stick in the water.
Oh.
I'm scared to put this on the website thinking that
don't do that.
we're going to be like the Weekly World News.
Yeah, no.
I would not.
That is, that could be a bear.
That could be many things.
It could also just be somebody walking around in the Everglades in Florida. Some very hairy man.
That's what I was going to look at next and see.
A hairy man.
Did he stand up? Here, I'm going to back it up because now the guy's running. I want to see why the guy starts running. See, he stood up.
Oh,
okay,
shit.
Stood up.
Is he large?
Okay, that's not a bear. If anything, that's a dude. If that's fake, it's a dude in a suit.
Yeah,
because
it was very...
Because it's very tall.
It was very dude in a suit
Watch.
sized.
There's nothing more compelling on a podcast than a bunch of guys watching a video.
Oh, hell yeah.
Watch. Okay, he's sitting there, he stands up. Not a bear. Not a bear. If it's fake, it's a dude in a suit. So let's see where this was taken. It was taken in Mississippi. So there's no apes. There's no native.
Close, yeah.
There's no apes native to Mississippi. I know
That's
that.
literally my second guess.
I would have said maybe Louisiana before that, but
Okay, I was just reading the article here. I don't know. If you want to look it up, if you want to look up a Bigfoot video, we hate Bigfoot stuff typically. But whenever
I love it, but not because I think it's real.
Yeah, I find it and I will sit and watch. Like on Paranormal Con on camera, a lot, or not a lot, but some of their videos are scripted. Doesn't necessarily mean I believe in the Loch Ness monster or whatever the hell it is, but I do like to watch the shows. There's an entire show called Monsters and Mysteries in America or something like that. I've watched every episode.
Cryptids have always interested me, but I've always went at it through the lens of like fiction. I like monsters. I've always been watching. I've been watching monster movies since I was.
Mothman is probably my favorite. Have you ever watched any Mothman stuff?
Love me some Mothman.
Because Mothman is like tiptoes between cryptid and
supernatural.
Then people become haunted by Mothman.
Yeah.
So if Mothman stuff, I find
and plus
entertaining.
like mass sightings supposedly of Mothman.
Yes, yeah, on the bridge in
where was that? It's up north, isn't
West
it?
Virginia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was in West Virginia.
I thought it was in like Wisconsin or something.
No, all the Mothman stuff happens in West Virginia. One town like Mount Pleasant, is that what it's called?
There's something on a bridge there.
Yeah.
He was spotted on a bridge.
That sounds small towny enough to be where something like that would be.
Yeah, it's a Point Pleasant. Sorry,
Point Pleasant.
Point
Yep.
Pleasant.
Yep.
It's a big tourist attraction. They have a big Mothman statue. Hell yeah, you're gonna. I mean,
Yeah. Cash
you're
in,
going
man.
to sell the T-shirts and everything, which
That's
they do.
pretty cool.
They actually have, and a while back, a few years ago, I drove to Hilton Head, South Carolina. I really wanted to cross through Point Pleasant just to get a picture, of the statue there, but it was going to be a little bit out of the way. But that kind of stuff, cryptid stuff, I find it entertaining. I'll just put it that way.
That's what I'm getting at. It's entertaining.
And I put Bigfoot right in there with everything else.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I know it's probably dumb to hear a bunch of ghost hunters talk about, well, there's no way that's real, but that's what we're doing.
That probably is a little silly, yeah.
Yeah, makes me feel kind of stupid just thinking about it.
But if you wanted to see that video, all you have to do is Google Bigfoot.
There's another
news.
Bigfoot video that came out recently about somebody catching footage of him walking up a snowy hill.
Oh, I've seen that.
And it does. I mean,
They calculate the height and everything.
yeah, the scale looks like it would be a very
like
large man.
8-9 feet tall. Yeah,
like an
I've seen
Andre
that.
the Giant in a Bigfoot
You hear
suit.
something?
Yeah, I thought so.
I didn't hear anything that time. So now, going back to last week's podcast, we're bouncing around here a lot. But going back to last week's podcast, I was just looking on the Reddit thing. Apparently, the Project Fear subreddit has been blowing up. People are all pissed off that they had Cody and Satori on their show because now there's more evidence apparently that they're faked, which I don't know what is. But if you didn't listen last week, we put it up on the website. The video, the link to Project Fear, where they had Cody and Satori on there. The methods they used on that show have since been questioned as possibly being fake. We're not taking a stance necessarily. I have no idea.
No way to tell 100%.
If on one hand, if it isn't fake, it's phenomenal. Did you hear something?
Yeah.
I didn't hear it.
Really loud.
Yeah, like
Oh, really? See, I need to put my other ear back in.
somebody almost shushing.
Every time I talk about this damn Cody and if it's real, it's phenomenal. If it's fake, it's cruel.
Yeah.
In my opinion, because they're exploiting, people using names that they've found in obituaries and whatnot. But anyway, we put that up on the website, the video, the link to the episode for Project Fear at mwghosthunters.com. Right below that, we put another video up that you can watch of supposedly Cody and Satori using joint manipulation to make the knocking sounds. It's an attempt to show that it's fake. So you can kind of watch that and see. We haven't even watched that video yet.
No, I guess we didn't.
But yeah, you can pull that up and look. We've got it on the website, mwghosthunters.com. We do have investigations we're going to do coming up. We've got a skilled nursing facility we need to do. We're going to go to Ashley's place. And we've got another one, too. I'll have to look up. I can't remember which one that is.
The haunted location in Fairgrove.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I wish Tyler was here because he knows about this.
About what?
About what I'm about to tell you. I was wanting to say this before we leave. A couple of weeks ago, we've been having kids messing around in our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I think they're kids, could be an adult, but they're trying to get into
They looked in between.
trying to get into houses,
Like knocking on the doors and stuff?
Not just knocking and ditching, but they're jiggling handles. One house was actually like an attempted forceful entry, like they put a shoulder in it and tried to get in.
They tried to kick the door in.
So one night, these people were supposedly spotted again because now the neighborhood kind of knows about it. They're keeping an eye out. I got a call from somebody that said, "Hey, I think they're out there doing it again." So it was a nice night. So I just sat out inside of on my front porch, sat there with a flashlight, and just watched. All the lights off, nobody could see me, and I was just sitting there watching and listening. And I live in a very wooded kind of small town, and there's this patch of woods directly across from my street. I heard what I cannot explain to you guys, and I wish I had it on audio. But there was a noise that came from those
So
woods.
standing on your front porch looking forward?
Looking straight north.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, those wooded area. Guys, I don't know what I heard. And I've lived in the Ozarks my entire life. I've heard dying foxes. I've heard the noise a rabbit makes when it dies, where it sounds like a human being slaughtered.
Yeah.
I've heard all these animal noises.
Even deer can make some fucked
They
up.
make some weird noise. I don't know what this was. This sounded very large, and it screamed.
So the area you're talking about over there's a big valley.
Yep. There's caves down there, and it's wooded, very dense.
Oh, so I'm assuming it echoed pretty well.
I even went next door because I lived next door to this facility that
Yeah.
I'm not going to go into.
Yeah.
But I went over there and I asked. There's people standing outside. I was like, "Do you guys hear that?" They're like, "Yeah." I was like, "You ever heard anything like that before?" No, I have no idea what that was. Sounded like an animal, but large.
See, that kind of reminds me of what me and John used to hear at his house growing up.
Yeah, we called it the rock thing.
And I know we've talked about this on a podcast before, but we heard, I don't even know how to describe.
It sounded like a cross between a cat and a bird almost.
Like, yeah, if it was an owl, it was a big ass owl. It was like a screeching.
See, I thought about owl too, because it sounded like a screeching thing, but it was deeper and it sounded larger. Like it had some bass to it.
This did too.
And where we heard, what we're describing, we heard it a lot. Yeah. We didn't just hear it once. We heard it for years.
Well, it caused me to have seasons. It caused me to have this like what you'd get if you're in the woods and you hear a mountain lion behind you.
Yeah,
like something just telling you to run.
That's similar to this. Very similar.
But what I was going to say is that the thing that we heard is not very far from where you live at all. Not very far at all.
No.
Now, I'm not saying what we heard necessarily migrated down there, but I'm saying we've heard something very similar. Also, it came from the wooded area.
Always in the woods.
Sounded
you would hear it moving up and down in the woods too. It would move. It
sounded
would move
like a cross between like a mountain lion and a human.
This thing was like I would say it was between some sort of a cat and some sort of a bird.
Yeah.
Now I'm sure that it was an animal of some kind that I'm just not thinking of, but I've never heard it before.
Well, John's dad was a veterinarian.
Yeah.
So he didn't know what it was either.
He said, I remember, I said, is that a panther or something? He said, no. I said, is it a bird? And he said, no. And I said, what is it? He said, I don't know what the hell that is.
And it wasn't just something you'd hear in the spring or the fall. It was just all year. And you wouldn't always hear it. You couldn't like summon it. It's just sometimes you'd be like, holy shit, there that was again.
But you remember though when my mom went out there and started calling it back
yes,
then.
I forgot about
and
that.
My dad went in and got his gun, and he goes back outside and he says, hey, her name was Lulabelle, and he said, Lou, why don't you come back in here? He said, you don't know what you're calling up here. She said, I think it's answering to me. He said, I understand it's answering to you, but we don't know what you're saying. He said, why don't you come up back in here?
See, it's funny you say that because my first response was to run, and then my second response was immediately to arm myself because it sounded so scary.
Yes, and he did. He went in, got his deer rifle, and went back out there. And he said, "Stop calling that thing because."
Do you remember when we heard the pterodactyl?
Yes.
And what I said was, I'm picturing what I think that might look like, what made that sound, and I don't like the picture I'm getting.
Yeah.
The same thing. Like I was picturing what this thing was.
Exactly. And it's very frightening how similar that is.
I was going to say, it's so funny you brought up that, because that's just how I was getting ready to describe it. As far as what we used to hear, that pterodactyl sound that we caught and recorded. I know we heard it once when we didn't record it, but later we did, get a recording of it. That sounded very similar to what we would hear. It sounded similar. It wasn't exactly the same, but it was this screeching cross between an animal and a bird.
It was very difficult to explain. It is not out of the question if it's an animal.
We were just making fun of Bigfoot.
I know. That's what made me. That's because I was driving up here today, and I was thinking to myself, I got to remember to mention this because that's the weirdest thing. Out of everything I've ever heard, with all you guys, all the noises, all the EVPs, everything, this was the strangest thing I've ever heard. And it was also the scariest thing I've ever heard.
If you ever have this happen again, do me a favor and record it on your phone.
But by the time it lasted for a second.
You got Hunter's attention because he lives over there.
Yeah, we live right there.
I was very confused. I didn't. Are you talking about the woods right directly down the hill from my?
Those are the woods, man.
Damn.
Yes.
If you hear this thing again, though, do try to get audio because I want to see if it sounds like the
or go out and mimic it and then roll audio and see if you get anything
I could
back.
mimic this thing if I wanted to.
Or ask me if I heard it.
My mom did.
I
don't
remember
so
hearing
funny.
I called Tyler and I asked him because he was home at the time, right
that.
where you live.
He wasn't going to hear it.
That's true. He could be that monster could be right next to his ear screaming at it. And he'd be like,
sorry.
It's so funny to me that 8 minutes ago.
I know.
We were talking about how cryptids are nonsense.
I know, but I'm not saying
entertaining.
I'm not saying it was a cryptid. I'm saying that what I heard I can't explain.
Yeah, I know. All this stuff has a hypocritical aspect to it.
It's okay if we're the ones that catch it.
Well, nothing's real until you encounter it.
It's real.
That's right.
Yeah. Nothing's real until you yourself
it was real
it.
enough for me to go get my gun and set up my front porch like I'm an 80-year-old man.
Did you whittle?
Next time I'm whittling.
You got to whittle, man. Get you a bar soap.
It terrified me.
Do you have a rocking chair on your front porch?
That's what I was envisioning.
I was in a rocking chair and I was rocking.
Were you rocking slowly?
I was rocking very slow.
But it was dark, right?
Oh, it was pitch black.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like 11:30 at night because I was waiting for these people to see these people that were messing around with houses.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I was just sitting there looking, watching, and it came out of nowhere. And it was just a very quick, but it was scary, guys.
They might have joshed you, dude.
See, my first thought was there's somebody down in those woods making very scary noises.
I don't think
But then nothing, why would you do it once and then not again?
Why would they be, okay, first of all, we're talking about, why would they be down there at all? It's steep, it's hard to get out of, it's full of thistles and thorns.
Yeah, it's very dense woods, so you wouldn't be in there.
I don't think a human would be in there for fun, just to yank on people's
I wouldn't
chains.
think so.
Yeah, and they're not even they're clearly not even very bright.
I mean, if your MO,
I don't even think they'd be down
if
there.
your MO is banging on doors with your shoulder and trying to bust in, I don't really think it's on your radar to hide in the woods and make animal sounds.
No, to draw attention to yourself.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so either. I was just joking.
But anyway, yeah, if you hear that again, I would love to have a recording because we would be able to know.
Yeah, if I hear it, I can tell you instantly
If it was the same thing that we experienced growing up. And I mean, I'm hearing the
It was a rah, but that's not right either.
oh, did you hear that?
Whoa.
It was a, yeah. I'm hearing the hypocritical aspect in my own head now as we go here, laughing about Bigfoot.
That's why I brought it up.
And, Mothman's cool, but it's entertainment only. However, I heard...
Yeah.
That's why I brought it up, because there's somebody out there maybe who has heard something that they can't explain. And if you're living in the town that's Mothman Town,
Point Pleasant,
and if you hear something like what I heard, well, you heard Mothman.
Yeah, and that's what I was actually. That was the disclaimer I was getting ready to throw in.
If I was in the middle of the woods, which kind of was, it's in the middle of the woods.
Yeah,
that's what I would imagine Bigfoot might sound like when he's very angry.
Yeah, the disclaimer I was getting ready to throw in is we're not dismissing that there could be a terrestrial, native to the area animal out there that makes those sounds that we just haven't encountered. We just don't know what the hell it is, and we've lived here, like Dustin said, our entire lives. That's not to say we've encountered every animal that there is, out there. But we've encountered a bunch. And you would think, John's dad was a farm vet, a veterinarian.
And an old guy.
He would go out, at 10 o'clock at night and pull a calf.
Right. He's probably heard coyotes kill every type of animal that there are around.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And when he says, I have no idea what it is, that shows that it's something rare.
So anyway, yeah. I mean, on one hand, we completely dismiss cryptids. On the other hand,
I've heard them with my own ears.
We've heard them. Okay, so
I very well could be talking about a fox being slaughtered, making some guttural, terrifying sound.
Deer can make the most fucked up noises you've ever heard. You wouldn't even imagine these sounds coming out of it. They're nothing like what you described, nothing like what we heard. But I'm just saying, animals can fool you.
They can. Because I've heard a bunny scream, which I didn't even think rabbits made noises until
I really didn't either.
Yeah,
there's a certain type of coyote that lives in the same area where you do. I know because I used to live there, and in the summertime, I'd keep my window open when I'd go to bed. There's a certain type of coyote that makes a sound
like
that sounds
woman?
Exactly like a woman screaming.
I know. Yeah, it does. Yes, it does.
And it'll do it over and over and over and over. And I remember laying there. I was like a senior in high school. I remember laying there in bed hearing this, and it wasn't until I heard the little coyote puppies, you can hear them barking, that I thought maybe that's a coyote, but that sure as hell sounds like a woman being murdered. And then I peacefully went to sleep.
Well, there goes another
See you
one.
tomorrow. Anyway, so the animals can make some sounds. I think a lot of times that's what cryptids are.
Yeah, that's where I was going to tie it all back into, is that what I heard.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I heard that too.
What I heard, some people, you could go to one of two ways, right? Either, like I said, that's an animal I don't know of, that's terrifying sound. It sounds like a monster. Or you go to the other thing, which is like I just heard Bigfoot. Yeah.
Maybe you did.
Maybe I did. Sleep good tonight, Hunter. Hope you.
I will sleep just fine.
I bet what you got there is a midnight whistler.
Midnight.
What time was it?
Have you ever heard? It was like 11:30.
There you go. He was getting up.
Have you ever heard the noises like people hearing the trumpets and horns coming from the sky?
Yes. Now that I can't. You know what? You know what? A lot of times is blamed for that. Harp.
Of course it fucking is.
Oh,
if you've never heard of these, go to Google, type in like trumpets from sky.
It is bizarre.
It is strange. And there's not just one video. There's dozens.
There's all the way from Canada to Mexico. There's tons of videos.
And the Eastern Hemisphere, like over
Switzerland,
there.
yeah,
like,
all over. These sound like a symphony of large brass instruments that are all being blown at one time.
Yeah, like horns coming from the sky.
And a lot of people go back to the biblical connection.
It's Gabriel. It's time to go.
Yeah. And hell, to watch these videos, I don't know if I heard that, if I wouldn't think the same.
If I was super religious and I heard what I heard on these videos in the middle of nowhere, I'd be like,
so loud. It's not off in the distance. It's everywhere. And that's what people say, is it's not really coming from a certain area. It's just everywhere.
I mean, there have been like law enforcement officers who have heard this and tried to respond to it and try to figure out where it's coming from. And there's evidence that or there's accounts of these people, and they're like, we have no idea.
Now that video I can put on the website.
There's so many of them.
Because I've seen a bunch. And I saw
so many of them.
I saw one where they actually had a decibel reader. It was so loud, and he even did it with like an 18-wheeler. It was like, see, it only measures here. And then he's like, look how, and it was really, really, pegging.
Right.
So I can't explain unless it's harp.
Unless it's harp.
I mean, if you're going to make a weather control instrument, you got to make some loud ass noises.
You got to.
We're teasing about that part.
The government just likes to prank people sometimes.
Yeah, it's like the Weekly World News guys. They're saying, hey, you know what'd be funny? Let's make the hurricane
machine trumpet sounds on this
make
guy
trumpet sounds.
in these hills.
But yeah, that is. I actually almost brought that up as a podcast itself one time because I have some recordings.
Let's do that next time.
Yeah, maybe we should, because that is interesting, and I've been meaning to look into it further.
That is our wheelhouse, because that is unexplained noises and sounds.
And there are some royalty-free audio recordings that we can actually play of those.
Go to YouTube and look at it.
Yeah, if you just go to YouTube,
I will look into that.
And you search like trumpets in the sky or something like that.
Or sounds from sky. Some of them are just really creepy sounding.
Some of them are real bassy.
Yeah.
I hope I don't get like some random album if I search that, because that sounds like an album name.
It's Tyler's, what do you say, Tyler's 90s rock band cover band?
I don't know,
name?
but Trumpets from the Sky sounds...
But yeah, if you go to YouTube and search, trumpets or sounds from, and some of them don't sound like trumpets. Some of them sound like, you remember on the movie Titanic when it's sinking, that large mechanical metallic.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking. It sounds very like mechanical sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, there have been people speculating that it's a cloaked UFO.
It's the dome settling.
When there's big temperature changes, the dome settles.
The dome expands. But yeah, that would be a good topic for us to go into, because if we do it next week, that'll give us time to look into it a little bit.
We can even play some of them.
Yeah, and I've been meaning to look into that more and see, because I haven't even heard what people speculate. Like scientists, what do they think it might be? I have no idea. Did you hear something?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, that was really weird.
Yep, it was weird. It was right under you.
Like while I was speaking? Mm-hmm. There's so much on this one, John. There's no telling.
This one and last week's.
Yeah, a lot of activity happening here at Pythian Castle. We just kind of keep moving along with the podcast, not because anytime we stop and draw attention to it, it completely stops.
Yeah.
We've been doing this here for 2 years now, and we've kind of learned just keep moving. So anyway, that's why we kind of don't acknowledge. You may hear stuff as a listener on the podcast that we didn't.
Oh, I guarantee you will.
9 times out of 10 when we hear one, someone will bug their eyes up and look around anyway.
I re-listen sometimes.
I usually do.
I re-listen and hear things that none of us mentioned. So either we ignored it and kept going.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll just point at each other.
In the case of last week, that's probably what happened.
One of the things I like to do is I like to listen to old podcasts just for the entertainment, just to listen, as the creators of the podcast, I like to listen and think, okay, what could we do better? Or that was really good, just to listen to them. And I will hear so much stuff that we never acknowledge. And, John goes through and he sends us all the anomalies in an email. And there's still stuff that pops up. It's like, I don't think we ever, what was that? Did you hear that?
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
There's still stuff that pops up. So when you listen to our podcast, listen a little bit behind us. We're like one of those 90s 3D posters. You have to kind of look through it before you can see the dolphin with the umbrella. You got to kind of listen behind our voices, and you will absolutely hear stuff, because we've heard a ton today, last week even more. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and probably we'll come back next week. We're going to regroup, and at least for a little bit, we can talk about and play some of those sounds that you were talking about. So we'll come back and do that next week. And anything we reference on the podcast, I always do put it up on the website if I can, if it's possible. Our website is mwghosthunters.com.
More Dark Matter next week with Midwest Ghost Hunters from Pythian Castle in Springfield, Missouri.